Hi, welcome to Mind and Body Wellness, a television show where we talk about the health of your mind, body, and spirit, where we interview a variety of guests from the mainstream to the alternative. I'm your host, Clovis Colley, and today in the studio I have I'm really excited about this interview. My guest is Stitch from Guardians of the Children. Tell us about who Guardians of the Children are.
We're a nonprofit organization that is an international organization. And what we do is we adopt abused children into our program, and we mentor them until they're 18 years old and empower them to finish school and to break the cycle of abuse.
And you're like a motorcycle club.
We're a motorcycle organization, yes.
Motorcycle organization. And I think everybody maybe has caught a glimpse of this on Facebook. There was a video that went around for a while that was kind of showcasing bikers rallying around children and helping them, supporting them, maybe going to court or things that they had to go through.
Yes.
Now, how do you find the children to help? How do you get together? How does that meeting happen?
Well, there's CPS, the police department, the community, different organizations will refer us. Or sometimes the parents even call, or the grandparents call, that if they have custody of the children and they have found our flyer or our card, or somebody's referred them to get a hold of us. If they have a scared child that has to go to court, or a child that is just scared from have lived through abuse, they'll call us to ask if we will come and talk with their child and see if we can help them.
I see. And you have a long story, or quite a story, about how you came to be part of this organization, and it was because you were abused as a child on up.
Yes.
Into adulthood.
Yes, ever since I can remember.
Okay. Now, as an adult, and we talked a little bit before the show, you took your children to get some help, and they looked at you and basically said, you need some help.
Yes.
And you of course you knew you didn't feel good, but they kind of brought some things to light for you, is that correct?
Oh, I knew I was damaged, and I had sought counselors for years to try to help me. And I even seen a psychologist at one time, and they misdiagnosed me because I'm one that studies everything and want to know that that's the truth. And this day, this counselor that was seeing my children said, so when are you making an appointment? And I said, why? And she said, because you have complex PTSD. And I said, you think so? And she said, I know. Well, then I went home and I studied it, and she was telling the truth. I knew that she knew what she was talking about.
So you went and looked at complex PTSD, and you're going down the checklist. This is me, this is me, this is me. Do you remember a couple of things that really stood out for you?
Flashbacks. Triggers when somebody does something to you that makes you feel the way that you felt during the time of abuse. The anxieties, the insomnia, the fear of what's going to happen next, and reliving that situation in your everyday life.
Do you know, were you able to delineate some of the differences between just regular PTSD and complex PTSD?
Complex means that you're just basically not comfortable in your own skin, and it's really hard to deal with. It really is, because just talking to somebody normally that has a loud voice for me, because my dad was very vocal and before he would knock you out. For me, that was triggering. Someone with PTSD, it usually has to be like if it was somebody that was in the military and it was gunfire. If firecrackers go off, that sets them off. Someone with complex...
But they're able to know. They can go, yeah, I had bombs going off 5 feet from me. Mm-hmm. I know why I'm feeling bad and having flashbacks and getting kicked back to these events.
Yeah.
When you're suffering mental abuse, it's a little harder to put your finger on it, isn't it?
Yes. I knew that there was issues. I knew that I had problems. I just didn't know how to fix them. And when I talked to the psychologist that day, I told him, I said, I have issues. These are my issues. I know why I have them, but I don't know how to fix them. And he told me, he said, well, what took years to get to is going to take years to come out of. That was his only response to me. And he told me I was a very intelligent person for figuring it out, but they offered no help.
I see.
They wanted to treat the depression. They wanted to treat the anxiety. They wanted to give me pills for this and this and this and this, and I'm not a pill popper.
You talked about guardians of the children. You're clean people. You don't use alcohol and drugs in your get-togethers, and you're kind of all business. You're there for a reason.
We're strictly for the kids. That's our whole purpose is for children, to help children, to empower them so they don't grow up like I did and end up marrying an abuser and then their children being abused and the abuse cycle continues. It's to try to break that cycle while these children are little and teach them that there is a better way and that everyone isn't abusive and it's not normal.
How good of a job have you been able to do that?
Oh, I think we do a wonderful job.
So you're really able to get the message across to these kids and really change. Get them pointed in a different direction.
Within 2 to 3 visits, the children they're not curled up in corners anymore. They are playing again. They're smiling again.
Is most of that because they feel like they have somebody's got their back?
Yes, they feel safe.
And so maybe sometimes it's not even about therapy or knowledge. It's just feeling like they have somebody that's behind them.
They know that we love them, truly love them, and they know that we're going to protect them and be there for them as a family. Once we adopt them, they stay until they're 18, and then if they want to be a full patch member, they can roll on over and be a full patch member to help kids keep the cycle going.
I mean, this is an amazing story, and we were in the lounge before the show started, and some of the things you were saying, I just having a hard time stopping myself from getting choked up. Now, can you tell us maybe one thing that's really stuck out in your mind, a kid that you're able to just absolutely transform, or get just one that just really sticks out and go, God, we hit it over the fence that time?
Well, we had one that I went and visited with, and the child was curled up in a corner, terrified. It took me probably an hour to get the child to relax enough and I finally reached for their hand. And when I reached for their hand, they squeezed mine back. And then we just started talking. The next day when I went back, because I offered to spend the night with them, and they said no, they didn't know me, I said, well, I can sit on your porch so you can sleep. And they told me, that they would be fine that night. The next day when I went back and checked, they were standing at the door with a smile on their face and come running out and hugged me.
That's quite a transformation in a pretty short period of time.
Yes.
Now, I can't help but think this has been probably the biggest part of your therapy or the biggest part of your recovering from what happened to you. Would you say that that's true, that this has been the biggest help for you?
Yes, when I started writing with this organization, they empowered me. I was a mess. I couldn't even look at you. I cried all the time. I was anorexic. I didn't eat right. I would go 4 or 5 days without eating. I'm now 135 pounds, and I eat every day. And they empowered me, and when I help these children that I see that are living the same kind of life I lived, and I can see that they come back from it with our love, that re-empowers you every day to just reach for that next one, just to help that next child.
I think some people might think it's a little trite, when they say love conquers all, but I think it does.
It's
I
the
really
truth.
think that it does.
It does.
And when you're little and you're getting pounded on from your parents, possibly, or wherever it's coming from, I mean, that is horribly frightening. And I even remember being a kid and somebody maybe getting a little cross or angry, and that's absolutely horrifying for a child.
Yes.
How much better do you feel now? Are you operating pretty good in life, or are you still have trouble?
The only trouble I have is still with my self-esteem and my self-worth, the way that I see myself, but I push past that to help the kids. I do have triggers when it comes to mean people, bullies, that because I was bullied as a child all the way into my adult life.
So you're getting it at home, and then you go to school and you're bullied at school, and so it's just nonstop.
Yeah, and then I grew up and married a bully, so I've only been free for 5 years.
Yeah.
So I have triggers with that. When somebody tries to bully me, then that triggers me.
you maybe have some pretty deep core beliefs that you know, when we're kids, we form implicit beliefs that say the world's not a safe place, the world's a great place, and those really, really affect how we operate in the world. You know, it was kind of almost, when I was hearing about how you connected with Guardians of the Children, it almost sounded like a little bit of a miracle, or as some people put it, a God thing. You met your current guy and he happened to ride, and then you found out about Guardians of the Children and you say, I got to go do that. That's the thing I'm supposed to do. And you kind of, when you saw it, you knew it.
Yeah, I told him, I said, can you get me, you know, can you take me to see these people? And he was all willing. And when he got me there, I was a hot mess. You know, I cried through the whole interview with them. But that didn't deter them. They just loved me more and offered to bring us right into their chapter and love us through it. And, you know, he's just like today, I said, I want to come here. He just jumps on the bike, let's go. I mean, you know, he tries to help me in every way he can, and so does everybody else. It's a family. I never had a family, and I'm going to tell you, when it comes to family, family is not always blood. It's who we choose. Just like you sitting there. If we meet tomorrow, you know, and we sit and visit, we form a bond and we become family. And that, you know, we stand beside each other day in and day out, no matter if you're here and I'm there. If you call me and you need an ear, I'm on the phone. You know, if you need me to come up here, I'm coming. That's what we do. We have members that come from South Dakota to visit. We have members that come from other places to visit, just to visit their family. Because we never had families. We formed our own families. And it's good.
Now, I really liked your story about going and meeting with these people, and you were trying to talk in front of some people, and you had a little bit of a breakdown. Is that right? And so tell us what happened next. You were having a hard time talking.
Well, I had to introduce myself, and I was like, oh my God, in front of all these people. I'm scared to death of crowds, scared to death of people. I had terrible anxiety. And I stood up and I said my name, and I was like, the room started spinning, and I threw my hand up in the air, and I just was like, I have PTSD. I'm not crazy, but I'm having a panic attack. And 200 bikers comes rushing for me with their arms out and just hugged me.
Now, these are people that have been through the same thing that you've been through.
90% of them have been abused.
Okay. Who are the 10%? They're just people that want to help, or maybe like a spouse of somebody that's coming to support their spouse?
Yeah, spouses, or just people that have compassion and understand. Some, you know, it does. You don't have to be abused to stand up, to know what is right and what's wrong, and to stand up for people. You don't have.
I would hope so.
Yeah, you don't have to be abused to have compassion. I tell everybody, just because you weren't abused doesn't mean that you can't have compassion for others that were. You know, this is something we live with for the rest of our lives. What is done to a child, they never get over. Do they learn to live with it? Yes, we do. But it haunts us forever.
Sure.
Every day in our trust issues, big trust issues. You know, self-esteem, self-worth. It takes a lot of love and empowerment of people coming together to make someone feel like that they're worth it. You know, you are worth something. I do love you. We can do this. Don't just leave them in the situation to, you know, just to sit there and think that nobody cares.
What really kind of irks me about some of these abusive situations is the abuser often is somebody who is very charming in public and
Narcissist.
Yeah, they're narcissistic abuse, narcissistic personality disorder, narcissistic abusers. They go out and they're so beautiful out in the community, and everybody loves them so much, and they go home and they beat their kids.
And they beat their spouses. So you find it in male and female. My father was a narcissist, but my mother was also. They were both alcoholics, and what one didn't do, the other did. And I see it every day in the adult life, men that are abused. And a lot of times, the men that are abused don't abuse their wives, but nobody will believe them because their wives weigh 90 pounds and they're big guys. And it's like with me, you know, when I was abused, nobody believed my dad was an abuser at home. Even though he beat the crap out of everybody in the public, he was a good father. I'm like, really? Mm-hmm. Nobody believed it, even when we had bruises. Nobody believed that he did it. You know, it's like, when CPS was called on my dad, I was in the 8th grade the first time, 7th or 8th grade. They came to the school, and I wouldn't talk to him because my dad always told me he would kill me, throw my dead body in a well, and I'd never be found if I ever told anybody what went on in our home. They left there, told me they were going to my dad, and I told them not to. They did anyway. When I walked in that door that day, he went ballistic. I said, I did not call them, Dad. I promise, I swear to God, I was scared to death. I told you I will kill you and throw you in a well, and nobody will ever find your body again. If they ever show up at my door again, I ain't even going to talk to you about it. They left us there. I was covered in bruises down my legs, and they seen them at the school in shorts that day. Where do they think I got him? He said he didn't do it. I wouldn't talk to him. They left me in that situation.
So these are, they really dropped the ball on this. And I'm speechless. Now, this would have been, what, 30 years ago?
Yeah, the system still is not, the system still fails the kids every day. The system, it's just, it needs some repairs. It fails every day, but we're not going to fail them. We're going to love those kids through it.
Right. Now, you went to the Guardians as an adult, so you don't have to be a kid.
No.
So the Guardians will take care of you and help you through things if you've...
Well, I was we had a bike, so we were wanting to join.
Okay.
And stuff, because that's one of with our chapter, we have supporters that don't ride bikes. But I reach out to everybody, myself. They reached out to me, but we had a bike and we were wanting to join. But me, myself, I don't care if they're a guardian, if they're not a guardian. If they need my help, I'm going to do everything I can.
Sure. The bikes are secondary.
Yes.
I can, I know you a little bit now, and I know you're all about business.
I'm all about love, all about the world needs to change, and the only way we can change is by example of what we give.
Sure. Can we break the cycle of this?
I think so.
The cycle of the abuse?
I think so, one person at a time, one child at a time. We have to remove the children from the abusive situation. We have to empower the children to feel safe and to feel like they matter and their voice matters. That's where the cycle's going to break. If we leave them in this situation and society does not recognize their abuse and tries to hush it like they did when we were little, then they're going to grow up and they're either going to be an abuser or they're going to marry an abuser. It's a vicious cycle. I've seen it over and over and again. I married an abuser.
Right.
My brother was
the person
an abuser.
wants to unconsciously fix the problem. So they go out and find somebody that's the same as the person that abused them so they can close that loop. No,
I was drawn to that myself. It was like the bad boy syndrome.
Well, plus you'd feel like you have no self-worth, so you don't.
Well, it's like,
somebody that's treating you well, it's too foreign, it's strange, it's odd.
When somebody tell you that they loved you, it's like, which way are we going? You just followed the crowd. Which way are we going? Because they said, I love you, and my life was a whirlwind, a tornado.
Right. Now, what did your ex-husband was finally, he's not on the face of the planet anymore. He's gone now.
He's in prison, but
he's in prison. Okay.
He was in, the first time he went to prison for, now this is where I'm going to tell you about the system. He beat my little girl when she was 3 years old with a 2x4. He went to prison for a year and pleaded guilty. He gets out, he's out less than 3 weeks. He body slams her in the floor, shoves a blanket on her throat and chokes her, puts my head through a door. He pleads guilty, he gets another year. Within 2 days, now I'd moved 100 miles each jump. Within 2 days, he's standing in my front yard. I called the police, they wouldn't do anything until he touched me. The last time he went to prison, they gave him 6 years for a meth lab. 6 years for drugs, just a year apiece for abuse on a child.
For beating a baby.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the
It's
system.
a little upside down.
Yes.
A little upside down. Now, we touched on it a little bit. Tell me about the men that have been abused. You're in contact with some fully grown men that are certainly have some physical stature, but maybe have been abused. And what does that look like?
Well, I have a Facebook page that has got 40,000 followers, and I hit 100,000 views about every 4 days. But the first person I made contact with as a male that was abused was Bill Murray. He When I first made my public page, within 2 days, he contacted me. He runs NASCO, National Adult Survivors of Child Abuse, and wanted to interview me on his radio show. And I spent several hours talking to him on the phone, and he's an abuse survivor. He was raped as a child. And then the second one that made contact with me was another male, and his name was Rick, and he was abused and raped as a child. And he was suicidal the night that he contacted me off of my public page. And I posted his story without his name to it. And people from everywhere loved him through it. He's doing great today.
And that was by the act of just reaching out and not being alone,
Letting people know that people care.
And knowing that he has people that are standing beside him that went through the same thing.
When I first made that page, I thought maybe we'd reach 100 people. I thought maybe 100 people. I never realized there's thousands of us survivors.
I think it goes on so much more than we even know about. And it does need to be exposed, and it needs to be stopped.
It does.
Now, there are grown men that are abused by their wives, and that's a joke.
It is. But the system doesn't recognize it.
If you are a man and you're being abused by your wife, she's hitting you in the head with stuff and stealing your car keys and emotionally abusing you, you have no help.
No, they don't. They do not recognize the males. For some reason, society has put the males as the stronger power, and they don't recognize the males that are being abused. It's just like with children, they sweep it under the rug. We don't want to hear it. You know, we don't want to hear that you're being abused. You're a man. And so they sweep it under the rug. And they tell you, well, how could you let a 90-pound woman beat the crap out of you? You know,
Well, if you don't want to hit her back.
Because you're a man. Men don't hit women. That's how they're raised, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. If I was a male and a woman hit me, I'd hit her back because she put herself in that position. But men don't do that. Men don't do that. Boys do that. Men, they're just men. They're good guys, and a real man will not hit a woman, but a boy would.
Right, and I agree with that. And I agree that we shouldn't hit each other, period.
No, but if you ever came at me and hit me, then
Absolutely. You got
to defend yourself.
If you're dishing it out, you might have it coming a little bit. But before it gets to that point, I really think we should be nice to each other.
Turn around and run. No.
Yeah, if you can. Sometimes you can't, and that's the bad part of it. Sometimes you can't get away from it.
Well, being a survivor myself, I know how that works. It's like when I was married to my abuser, it was like scared to run, scared to stay. I figured either way I was going to be dead, but I might get another day longer if I stayed, you know. And it's like you love to hate them, and you pray for them to wreck on their way home so they never make it home. But then again, you don't want them to die. You know, I understand the whole thing. Sure. You know, it's you're on a roller coaster of emotions. It's just crazy.
I lost my train of thought a little bit here. Now, how do the guys get help?
Well, just like we had one that joined our chapter that was abused, and I knew he was abused the day I laid eyes on him. I sit and he had glasses on at first, and when he took his glasses off, I was like, oh, I could just see the pain in his eyes, you know, and I knew that he had been abused as a kid. Child abuse survivors, for some reason, I know the minute I look at them. I don't know how, but I know. But anyways, when he joined our organization, it helped him so much. But it's empowering to the adult. I mean, if there's a guy that needs our help and they're riding a motorcycle, just when they join us, the empowerment is going to change them. So many people, you know, I've overcame so much in this organization, not even being able to get out in public. Riding a motorcycle, I was terrified. That was the first step. I finally, you know, got on the back of that bike. And after 20 miles, I rode that bike another 300. But the first 20 was rough because we stopped every 5 minutes. But it's empowering. You want to jump that hurdle. You want to do the next thing and the next thing. And then your mind just starts to heal. Each time that you jump a hurdle, your mind starts to heal and you're able to cope with things better. I'm not depressed anymore. I don't cry all the time. You know, I can actually speak to you. I can look you in the eye. Things I couldn't do, you know, and being a male survivor, so many men don't tell because they don't want to look weak. So they suffer alone. So if a male wants to get past all of their things they deal up here and they don't want to tell us, they don't have to tell us. They can just come be a part of our family, and we will help them any way we can.
I see. Now, do you do some of the same things that other motorcycle groups would do? Do you have runs and do you have barbecues? And
We get together at each other's house for a barbecue. You have to come next time.
I certainly will.
We do motorcycle runs. We're a nonprofit, so we function off of donations. We just did fill a backpack for the kids. We fill the backpacks for school. We do things for the kids. That's where all the money goes, is to the kids in our community that are, in our program. So anytime that we do anything, I share flyers all over Facebook and everywhere and try to get the community involved.
I see. We're under 2 minutes. Tell us something that you haven't got to say that you would like to say.
Join the Guardians. We're a great organization. Help some kids. Let's help some kids. It's all about the kids.
It is. Now, how do people help out the Guardians? How do they give some dough to the Guardians, or some financial support, or do you take items, school items?
We
things
take
like that?
anything, any kind of items, anything they want to donate. They can send a check straight to the bank into the Guardian Fund.
Okay. Can they find that on your Facebook page? Or?
And I have a Guardian Seven Valleys Facebook page.
Okay. Guardian Seven Valleys.
Guardians of the Children Seven Valleys chapter.
Okay. And so that's how they'd reach out to you, Stitch, on
I run that
through that
page.
Facebook page, and they could possibly find out how to join, how to support. If they have a kid that needs help, they could go to that page.
They can go to that page and get a hold of me, and I'll give them my number immediately.
Okay. All right.
But my phone number is listed on that page too.
Okay. Alrighty, well, we're under 30 seconds. This has been a fantastic interview. I want to have you on again, maybe in a while, and have you tell us more about this organization. It's a beautiful story. Keep helping those kids. I'm Clovis Colley. This has been Mind and Body Wellness. This has been brought to you by Nebraska Counseling and Hypnosis Center. Tune in again, and thanks for watching today.